Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Thatbloke Z, and I have been searching Greenlight recently for a game that hasn't really received much publicity by way of game reviewers, and one that isn't, that's worthy of attention for potential. So, I stumbled across one called Reversion, The Escape. That's the footage that's playing in the background now. And the reason that it drew my attention is because it reminds me of one of my favourite games of all time, which is Broken Sword. 1 and 2, the 3D ones were awful. And I think they did like a 1.5 as well. And those games were really difficult. It was more of an art style than it was a cartoon style. For instance, on this game, it seems very flash gamey, and it does have a few problems. Does this game? I mean, it's got its good points. The way that the game is laid out, for example, in a Broken Sword-esque fashion, which could be very popular to a lot of people, including myself, as long as it isn't messed up by some of its faults. And one of the faults being that it looks like very flash gamey. The guy there who's sitting on the bed, who's talking to that doctor there, he's just come out of a 20-year coma. 20-year coma. Now that he went into the coma at 2015, and he's woken up here in this hospital that's falling to pieces at 2035. He looks, at best, a really young-looking 30-year-old, which means that he'd be 10 when he went in this coma, which is stupid in itself. But you know what? It's completely forgivable. I'm just picking up on the slightest little things here, so don't feel like I'm attacking this game at all. And the voice acting is, well, quite frankly, it's really, really awful. I hope that because they've only released chapter 1, I'm not sure if they've completed the entire game or whether this is them going, look at what we can do. Please, show us that kind of support and we can build on it. This is our alpha or this is our beta. I really hope that it isn't their finished product. I mean, it's probably a very entertaining game, but like the doctor there, who was speaking to the main character, he has the robot voice. You know when you type it in and press enter and it says it like, oh, I don't think that it literally sounds like they've typed all of his script into that. And the main character himself sounds like a 15-year-old has voiced him. And the guard that he's about to speak to, he's got a really corny voice as well. He goes, "Oh, really? What's this? I don't know." So hopefully, they can go over that again. If there was going to be any changes I'd make to this game in order for me to, fully show it myself. I know that this isn't Kickstarter, and this is, Greenlight, but you have to try, don't you? I would change the art style. I mean, at the moment it's very flash game and cartoony. I would change it to an art style. Like decent, artistically drawn backgrounds with, a cartoonish character. But I don't know, a bit more refined. I don't know. I don't want to turn it into Broken Sword, but I want it more Broken Sword because that's the genre that it's in, and I can't think of a better game of that genre. I think Simon the Sorcerer was in that kind of genre, but to nowhere near the same degree. There is another fault, and that is with the controls. Every time you want to do something like that, you have to double click, and often you'll click once and it'll do nothing. So you'll double click, but that second click counted as the double, and then once you've completed the double click it's cancelled, and then you do it again and you end up repeating it a few times and it ends up getting on your nerves. So I'd probably look at changing that, because at the moment when you right click it opens up your inventory, whereas there's a big button in the top left there to open your inventory. So I'd probably replace the replace the double click with just having to right click once, and then your inventory, it's got a big button there. There's no reason to have it. But I think this game's worthy of attention. I'm surprised that it's kind of been overlooked by everyone. Well, probably not everyone, but it certainly hasn't been given as much attention as some of the other games that are in Greenlight at the moment. whereas this one's got a lot of potential. I mean, if it stays the way that it is, it's going to be poorly voice acted and cartoony style, but it could potentially be a really good game. Whereas if they take the support that they get for what people hope it is going to be, then they can overhaul some slight little things, such as voice acting in particular. Even if they kept the same art style, the voice acting really needs something doing to that. It's not great at all. So I started playing this, and I gave it roughly 10 minutes, and I was completely stuck. I was going round and round and round and round in circles. I couldn't do it to save my life. I was going to get my missus to come in and let her have a go and just record her while I spoke, because I'm sure she'd do a lot better than me. But no, I thought I would bring this one to everyone's attention, because it's got a lot of potential to be good, and I feel like it's getting overlooked a little bit. So thank you very much for your attention. Auf Wiedersehen.